Hello, everybody, and welcome back to GameRant.com. I'm Anthony Taormina, editor-in-chief of the website, and we're going to do something a little different today. I wanted to kind of break down some of the games that I've been playing in January, so it's now February, and highlight some of the ones that I really enjoyed or thought were worth giving a look to. Now, I should preface this by saying this isn't an all-encompassing list. This isn't just going to be a list of all the, AAA games that released as we kind of get further in the year. My goal is to hopefully do this once per month at the end of the month. So maybe the first Monday I'll record it and then I'll go sometime that week. But the vast majority of the games I think will just be games that I really enjoyed and not necessarily the biggest releases. So, if you are looking at a list and you think, well, where's this game? Chances are I did play it. Chances are I did enjoy it, and we talked about it. We have a review on the site. But there are a few games that just either don't get coverage or only get a review or don't get talked about that much, and that I want to give a little extra juice to, so to speak. So I'm going to kind of go through a few of the games in January that I played that I think are worth talking about and worth checking out if the brief descriptions I give are enticing to you. What I plan to do, I don't know if this will be true for all of them, but what I plan to do is have kind of the final game be the game that was the game that I enjoyed the most from January. So we're going to kick things off with Ender Magnolia Bloom in the Mist. It's a mouthful of a title, but it's the sequel to Ender Lilies, Quietus of the Nights. I don't know if anybody played that game, but it's actually well worth playing. It's a kind of metroidvania with some Souls-like elements. I think at this point, Metroidvanias are doing the Souls-like stuff of, the enemies respawn when you rest, but you get your health back. You use the resting points to upgrade. I don't necessarily know if that's unique to Souls-likes anymore, and it's probably just going to become a real indicator of a Metroidvania in general. But Ender Magnolia is the sequel to that. It doesn't pick up right where the other one left off. It is its own unique story, so you don't have to have played Ender Lilies to understand Ender Magnolia. But the general conceit of the game is that you are a little girl who's going around this world that's a desolate world where things have been, run down, people have been killed off, and though you're a little girl, you're not actually fighting as the little girl. You have these partners that are these robotic, sort of mutated people, creatures, robots called homunculi, and these do your attacks. So your kind of primary weapon-based attack is one homunculi either uses a sword, or the homunculi can use a big giant axe or kind of like a scythe, and do different attacks based on that weapon, different swing times, more damage, slower, quicker, that old chestnut. And that can be mapped to any of 4 buttons. So you can kind of change the bindings, but you have your 4 kind of attack buttons, which include the bumpers and X and B. You can, map those however you want. Maybe if you're playing on keyboard, you can do something unique, or you can use the paddles on a scuff or a different third-party controller or something like that. But what's unique about that is that your attacks you have your kind of basic attack, which I map to X, and that can be the homunculi that uses melee weapons. But there's also a homunculi that does ranged attacks, like shoots a rapid-fire gun or shoots a single shot. You get more as you go. Those are kind of like your carrot on the stick is finding new homunculi and unlocking different attack abilities. And so you can kind of mix and match those. So as you're slashing with the homunculi that uses a sword or an axe, you can also be shooting by pressing or holding the same button. There are also homunculi that you can summon that will just constantly attack but low damage. So there's like a owl that will just constantly attack, but it's not a ton of damage. There's a parry homunculi that if you red as an enemy attacks you, use that homunculi, it will block the damage and then also counterattack and deal big damage. So you have these kind of 4 different homunculi that you can put in your kit, your build, and you can mix and match them however you want. Some have longer cooldowns, some are instantaneous, some you just send out There's multiple that you can send out that just attack on their own. So you could have 2 going at the same time, and you're mixing and matching that, and that's your combat kit. So you're playing this little girl, but the homunculi are sort of being summoned as you're pressing the button to attack. And then you're going through a pretty standard Metroidvania setup. You unlock new abilities like the ability to stick to walls and climb up walls, the ability to kind of dash in the air, and then you can actually like dash further, swim, and things like that. It is a super fun game. I enjoy a well-made Metroidvania with a little bit of Souls-like in it. The bosses are pretty challenging. You have to kind of time your attacks, dodge at the same time. There's, intricate patterns to learn, and it's super fun. I really, really enjoyed Ender Lilies, and Ender Magnolia, Bloom in the Mist, I think is just as good. The story is, interesting. It's told through kind of text-based cutscenes, or text-based interaction scenes and a few text-based cutscenes. The music is really beautiful. The art is great. I highly recommend it if you're a big fan of Metroidvanias and you're looking for one to scratch that itch. Ender Magnolia, Bloom in the Mist. The next game that I want to talk about is Tyrant's Realm. So Tyrant's Realm is another Souls-like, but it's got retro art. So it is kind of going for this approach of being a modern genre, or a genre that is really popular now, but the art is very dated, but very cool, very pixely. And then the added wrinkle to Tyrant's Realm that makes it unique is that it's a roguelike and a Souls-like. So you have this kind of interesting interplay of, okay, you're going through these levels and you can die at any moment, just like a roguelike, but it's also super challenging like a Souls-like. So, your margin for error is much slimmer than it would be in just a straightforward roguelike. It's more closer to a Souls-like. But what makes it interesting from its kind of construction standpoint is that what you're doing is you're entering an area. There are enemies to defeat. You have to be very deliberate in your attacks. There is a parry. If you have a shield, you can block. And you want to kind of learn their patterns. Like, maybe one enemy will do like a big hit and then a quick follow-up hit. So you want to get back, then get in and get your pokes in, and then get back depending on how much health they have. And then as you're going through that, you'll find different items, both gear for your character, like armor, and then weapons. And those have 3 different color affinities. They can be green, they can be red, and they can be yellow. And throughout the different runs, you'll find these shrines, and those will boost the colors. So if you're all in on one color, you'll actually buff all of your gear, but you might, serve a little penalty because of that. So it's a risk and reward in investing in one specific color. Mixing and matching is maybe more advisable, but it depends on the way you want to approach it. But yeah, Tyrant's Realm, very cool. And then when you're going through the levels, it's usually, okay, this is a level that has enemies and I'm traversing, and then I get to a boss. And the bosses have their own, unique attack patterns, and they're much more challenging. They have a lot of health. It's one of those Souls-likes that you really have to be patient, and you have to understand that, it's going to take a while to defeat this person, so you don't want to just kind of go for big damage up front. You want to just poke away at them, chip away at their health, because if you get too risky, you're going to die very quickly. You do have healing, and you can upgrade that healing. So after you kill the boss, and in between the kind of structured traversal area and the boss, there'll be a vendor, and you can spend your currency and you can upgrade and unlock things a bit like Dead Cells. So you can unlock, okay, I got this axe when I was going through, and now I want to be able to find this axe in the future. So you spend money, and then you'll find that axe in the future. And you can upgrade things like that. You can upgrade how many heals you have, all with your currency that's carried over only through the run. If you die, you start again. Once you defeat a boss, then you can kind of diverge and pick one of 2 areas, and that will dictate, I think, what boss you play or you fight at the end. So it's not always the same run in Tyrant's Realm. I only played probably about a few hours. I never got to the end, so I couldn't say like how fully it delivers or how long it is, but I did have a great time just kind of going through the runs. learning the bosses, getting stronger, finding the best strategies. It is a Souls-like roguelike. So if either of the genres are of interest to you, or you like retro games, I highly recommend giving it a look. That's Tyrant's Realm, and it's available now. My next game is Dead Letter Department. Basically, all you do in this game is you wake up in the morning, you walk to your job, and you type. I know that sounds kind of crazy and weird, and it is kind of a crazy and weird game. So the idea behind Dead Letter Department is you are taking mail that maybe wasn't processed properly, and you are typing out what it says. So you're essentially just typing what you see on the screen. Sometimes, what's on the screen is garbled or muddied and it's harder to read. Sometimes you're just typing what you see and it's very easy. But then weird things are happening. You're seeing the same letters. You're examining the letters and there's weird clues on them. And it just kind of goes to some weird places. It's a very strange game. It's currently only $14.99 on Steam. It is currently on sale as I'm recording this, but I don't know if it will be when the video goes up. So it's just a weird game, but I would say check out a trailer or you're seeing some footage now and give it a try. It is very, very strange, but also kind of got that Zen-like thing of, okay, I'm just typing. But then weird stuff's happened. The screen's going dark and all kinds of crazy stuff is happening. Dead Letter Department. Very weird, but one game that I think you should check out. My next game on the list is The Stone of Madness. So The Stone of Madness is a kind of tactical strategy stealth game a little bit. It's very hard to define. So the art is very cool in Stone of Madness. It's got this kind of painterly, like Italian feel to it. Great animation. There are cutscenes with really cool animations. It's made by the people that made Blasphemous, if you know Blasphemous, which is a metroidvania Souls-like type of game with the very religious, old-time religious art. This is very different than that in most ways, but just so you know where they're coming from, they do like their kind of religious undertones. So Stone of Madness, you start off as one character, and they're in this asylum that is in Spain in the 18th century, and you're kind of not supposed to be there, is what I'll say. And you're exploring, and you see some stuff that leads you to believe, okay, that something's not right here. And as you're going through the asylum and the monastery, you'll discover kind of straightforward puzzles of like, okay, I need to open this door. But the character you're playing as might not necessarily have the ability to open that door, or the way to open that door isn't easily accessible to them. So what makes it interesting is that you pick up different characters along the way, and these are all inhabitants of the asylum for various reasons. What they did. You'll learn kind of why they're in the asylum, but also everybody has their kind of own phobia or element that makes them a disadvantage, so to speak. So the first character you play, he's a former priest, and he doesn't like seeing dead bodies. But you pick up another character who actually can kill guards or people that are in your path. So when you're using her, you don't want the other guy, the priest, to either be in your party. You can kind of mix and match your party as you go further along. But you don't want him to be nearby. As he gets closer, they call it, I think, it's insanity meter. It will go up, and he will end up being frazzled by that, and then it'll eventually affect your playthrough, and he'll lose health and things like that. You have another character that's really strong, but they're afraid of the dark. So the priest can carry a lantern, and he can light the darkness, and then you can kind of call them together. So you can take your group, it's 3 characters in your runs, and I'll get back to what runs mean. But as you're moving through, you can say, like, you guys wait here. Okay, the lady's going to go through, and she's going to take out this person. Then she's going to move the body and hide it so that you can get the priest and get the guy that's afraid of the dark and kind of go through. The wrinkle that's interesting is that the lady that can take out guards, she actually doesn't like fire. So you might need to extinguish the fire, which will make it dark. So the bigger guy is afraid, but she's not afraid. So there's a lot of this strategy involved in how am I going to get through this path. I'm going to avoid detection because you're going through this asylum in this monastery and you don't want to be detected in certain areas, and there are guards. They have vision cones, they have light. So they're looking for anybody that's, wandering around. But at the same time, you want to get past them, and you don't necessarily want to just kill them. There are different items that you can have on the runs, kind of inventory management of it. In order to take out an enemy, you have to have her blade, and then you can also carry planks, and she can actually just knock them out instead of killing them. That makes it better for the priest. And then, you make your progress, and then you go back to your cell or your camp at night, and you can upgrade the characters. You can spend a currency. Yeah, so the Stone of Madness, it's a very complex game, and I don't think it's going to be for everybody, but I really do like what it does, and it brings just a different vibe to the table, and that's why I wanted to highlight it in this video. Stone of Madness. It's available now. So my final game and my overall recommendation for January is The Roottrees Are Dead. This game, if you love Return of the Obra Dinn, or you love any of Sam Barlow's games, specifically Her Story, this game is right up your alley. The Roottrees Are Dead is so just like it becomes an obsession. So the idea is that you are trying to map out the family tree of this family whose last name is Roottree. They come from wealth, and there's a candy company lineage. But anyway, so the Roottree family, some modern day at the time of the game in the 90s, they've died. And you're essentially trying to figure out, okay, who is actually a blood relative of this Roottree family, who's a spouse, who's a kid of certain people, and you're putting together this family tree by scouring the internet and picking up different details. So you're given almost nothing to work with from the beginning in terms of information, except there's these three girls and their dad, and their last name is Roottree. So you get this kind of old school, almost Netscape, I think they call it Netscrape, like explorer platform to work with. And then you have this search engine called Spider Search, and you just first you type in Roottree and you get information. And as you pick up more names, you can search those names and you're filling in details. And it will do a lot of the kind of like summarizing for you, but it's very, very cool. And it's just so like this detective work that you don't often see in a video game. And it's very smart about how it just peppers in these details. And so when you start off, you only have that spider search and you're searching Roottree, but eventually you'll unlock periodicals. So you'll unlock like different magazines and newspapers and stuff that you can search within. So you might actually search the same name in multiple places. When you happen to search for a new thing, sometimes it will trigger evidence, and that evidence might be pictures with a caption or captions from a book. You eventually get access to the library, so you can search the author and the title of a book, and it just starts, the web grows. So initially, you're just trying to figure out the names of like these three Roottree girls who are on the main art for the game. But then you're trying to figure out, okay, well, who was her grandparents? Who were their cousins? Who were their uncles? Who were those people's cousins? And in order to kind of fill in the tree, you have to put a picture, a name, and an occupation. And the picture will come from that evidence. So like when you're going through the magazine, it'll be like, here's a picture of 7 people, and you can click on all their faces and it'll give you those options as pictures. But at the same time, you don't know who those people are until you look at the caption of the picture, or maybe you kind of fill in details like, oh, they were a redhead, they wore glasses, they look like their dad. Some of it is just like intuiting it. But then the occupations, there are choices. So like you don't have to type it in fully. Like you don't have to type in lawyer. You can type L and it'll be like lawyer or other L occupations. So it'll kind of let you know you're on the right track. And then for the names, there will be a lot of Roottrees. But if you kind of have a sense of like, okay, well, this is a female, I think their name's Katrina, you can type in K and it will say, there is a Katrina Roottree, for example, but there might also be a Kimberly Roottree. And then as you fill in these names, pictures and occupations. When you have 3, and eventually you have to get 4, it'll lock in the blood relatives to say, like, look, you have these 3, but you can only lock them in groups. You can't lock them in individually. So you can't just guess and go, well, I think it's that person, it's their name, it's their occupation, their picture, and it'll lock it in. You have to have 3. So that's where it gets really interesting, is because you're forced to not just guess your way through it. You do have to make more educated guesses if you are guessing, but you have to refer back to your evidence to say, okay, from this picture, I can kind of glean that this person might have, this picture might associate with this person. I know for sure their name is this and their occupation, and maybe you pick 2 pictures, for example. But then at the same time, as you're filling in this tree, you're learning the history of this root tree family and the secrets involved. There's a kind of greater mystery. So you're not just filling in this tree for no reason, you're actually doing it with a purpose. And I think that's what's so compelling about The Roottrees Are Dead, is as you're gaining information, it is filling in the backstory of these characters, filling in the backstory of their relationships, filling in this greater mystery all at the same time, while you're just trying to figure out, who is this? Who had kids? Who didn't have kids? Who were they married to? What was their job? It's a really incredible game, and I highly recommend it, especially if you're a fan of any of those puzzle, mystery, detective work type games. You're seeing some footage. If this looks like the game for you, it absolutely is. It consumed me. I liked playing it with my wife. We did the kind of guesswork together, and the user interface is very familiar to all of us because we know how to use computers, and it's very basic. It's not super complex or anything like that. There's a lot of tools there to help you. There's like a copy. You can highlight a piece of text and just search it in the spider search. There's also a really fantastic hint system that will kind of say, okay, you say, I want a hint, and it'll nudge you in the direction, and then it'll nudge you closer, and it knows what you have filled in. So it'll kind of figure out, okay, here's what you do and don't have, and let me kind of point you in a direction that maybe will get the ball rolling, and then you can take over. Or if you're still stuck, it'll give you more pieces of information. So it'll help you lock in a person, for example, with kind of a vague description, and then it'll go deeper. It'll say, look here, look here. Okay, it's this person. Does that help you? And if it does help you, then you can go take it and run, or you can use the duck. We called it the duck. It is a duck. It's a hint system. But The Roottrees Are Dead. Very, very good. Very cool. Highly recommended. So those are my recommendations for January 2025. I'll hopefully be back for February. But just to recap, we had Tyrant's Realm and Ender Magnolia Bloom in the Mist, 2 kind of Souls-likes. Ender Magnolia more Metroidvania, Tyrant's Realm more Souls-like roguelike. Dead Letter Department, you're typing. Stone of Madness, strategy stealth game with a greater mystery. And then The Roottrees Are Dead. That's my overall recommendation for January. I highly recommend it. Check it out, but all of these games are well worth playing. I've been Anthony Taormina, editor-in-chief of GameRant.com. Thanks for watching this video. If you like them, leave a comment in the threads and say what you did and didn't like. It'll help me kind of improve them as I go. And I appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day. Bye!